I 40 meters found out that my wife 39F of 14 years cheated on me 5 years ago. How to proceed? A little over 5 years ago, my wife was working and going to school from home, while I was working outside and putting in long hours, while also trying to find time to spend with our son, who was then 7 years old. I was also trying to find time for myself. Through participation in the same online study group, my wife was able to make the acquaintance of a new female friend, and the two of them have since developed a strong friendship. I tried to stay out of the way and let her spend time chatting to her new friend. It was often late night or early morning, because they were in different time zones. But I figured that some good girl talk was just what she needed, because she is a highly sociable person, and at that time didn't have much opportunity to meet people. I tried to stay out of the way and let her spend time chatting to her new friend. My wife shared a lot of information about her friend with me, and she even convinced me to have a conversation with her friend on a couple of occasions. I believe the conversation was about some sort of life hacking tip or another. After about a year of being friends, my wife mentioned to me that she was interested in meeting her friend in person and taking a week-long trip to a city with her friend. I didn't have a problem with it, and we worked out a schedule so that I could leave work early on certain days so that I could pick up our son from school. She asked me not to call because the woman was single, and she didn't want her to get the impression that her significant other was constantly checking up on them. She said she would call or text me instead. That makes sense, was my thought. She complied with the plan and went away for the vacation. Upon her return, she was revitalized and energized. After that, the level of difficulty of the study course increased, and neither of them had the time to maintain their previous pace. Approximately 3 years later, I was using the computer that belonged to my wife because she had asked me to proofread a letter or something else. I immediately began reading the message after a brief email notification popped up on my screen. It was from the same friend. Something along the lines of, "The times that we spent together will remain ingrained in my memory forever. Love and best wishes, from Pat." It is sometimes difficult for me to believe my own effort, but when I first heard about the situation, my first thought was that the person might have undergone a gender transition since we first met, but they had simply kept the name Pat, which is gender neutral, because our active child was with us most of the time, and because we were both working long hours. I chose not to inquire about the email to my spouse, but I couldn't help but wonder who the mysterious woman was who had been hearing about nearly every day for the past 18 months. The next time my wife asked me to do something on her computer, I snooped in her Outlook and searched the person's name. I was surprised to find out that she had been keeping secrets from me. It was the first time I'd ever predicted something, and it's not something I'm proud of doing. In addition, I probably would have been better off continuing to live in blissful ignorance. On the other hand, I discovered their correspondence stored in a folder that was not online. There were no pictures or attachments in any of the messages. Although some were emails and others were emailed copies of chats, I started opening them without any pattern in mind. It was immediately apparent that her friend was a heterosexual male, a few years older than she was, and rather reserved, and that she was the one who almost entirely instigated the affair. The majority of the messages sent to me via email and chat consisted of mushy declarations of undying love, time fantasies, and other such pap, which I couldn't be bothered to read. On the other hand, a few of them mentioned me, and after that I felt somewhat more justified in reading those. My wife shared with him the possibility that they might have been able to live together in the future, as well as the children they might have had if she had met him instead of me. She explained to him that, although we were no longer together, we still lived in the same general area so that we could take turns caring for our son. She had married me not out of love, but because she thought I was a decent person and I loved her very much. In point of fact, prior to him, she had only ever loved 2 other people in her life, and I was not one of them. She has always told me she loves me and sounded sincere. How lucky she is to have someone who loves her so much, and she has not once suggested splitting up, even in the midst of our worst fights. All of this read like something out of some bizarre fantasy world that she had created. To tell you the truth, even after reading this, I'm not certain whether she was speaking her mind or just trying to keep his interest. And I could probably forget most of this and move on with my life. But in the very last email, which I just now read, she said something that I find very difficult to forgive her for. She told him that she was going to see the doctor a few months before their trip to see if she could start taking the pill so that they wouldn't have to bring condoms with them on their trip. I don't know if she actually did in another email. He told her he would bring some, but the fact that she could even suggest it is very unsettling to me. I find it hard to believe that she would do something like that. Since the first time we talked, she has insisted that the two of us use condoms as a method of birth control. The alternative is virtually no time. And whenever I've tried to discuss other options, her standard response is, "Why should contraception be a woman's responsibility? I don't particularly like them. But the alternative is virtually no time. And the alternative is virtually no time." She also mentioned to me once that none of her exes had ever used a condom in the 10 years that they were together. But that is her private life and none of my business. I should also mention that she had been on the pill for a couple of years before we met, and I presume that it did not work out. The point is that despite the fact that I was now married to her and taking my responsibilities seriously, all of a sudden it was acceptable to suggest that she have unprotected time with someone she'd talked to over internet chat but had never even met in person. I was taking my responsibilities seriously. Now, approximately a year ago, we got into a fight because I brought a coworker home from a late work party without telling her, which resulted in her being awakened. After he had left, she told me it'd been selfish and thoughtless, that she was furious with me, disgusted, and so on, until I couldn't take it any longer and told her I'd known about the gender of her friend ever since I'd seen the email notification, the truth, but without mentioning anything else I'd read. After that, she told me it'd been selfish and thoughtless, that she was furious with me, and that she was disgusted. It was certainly enough to put an end to the argument. And she told me that she was sorry, that she'd lied to avoid hurting me, that it was during a difficult period of her life that was over now, and that I was such a good husband for staying beside her in spite of her craziness, and that she loved me, and that we should forget about it and move on with our lives. But I can't shake the nagging doubts I have. Why did she offer to have ill contact without protection with a man she had never met if she continues to insist that she and her husband of 14 years always use protection when they have ill encounters? It seems like it should be the other way around. I don't understand why she lied to him and said she didn't love me. Was it just to keep him interested? If this is the case, then why didn't she just say that we had grown apart? Why was it necessary for her to both say that she had never loved me and give an exact count of the number of people she had loved? When it comes to discussing this matter with her once more, I can't make up my mind. It's been 5 years, and I have a strong suspicion that she has remained faithful ever since. I still love her, and she assures me on a regular basis that she loves me, and we have time at least a few times per month. Because there is a child in the middle of this marriage, I do not want to start a confrontation that could end in divorce. In addition, I'll have to admit to her that I snooped on her emails, which is something I'm ready to do. But I don't want her to get the impression that it was more than a one-time occurrence. What are people's opinions on Reddit? Should I let sleeping dogs lie? Or should we wake them up and just keep our fingers crossed? TL. Doctor. My wife had an affair with someone she met online about 5 years ago. She later told me the person was a girlfriend and that they had gone on vacation together. After some time, I discovered emails that revealed my friend had a male lover. She had also told him that she had never loved me, but had offered him unprotected time. What should one do? Redditor's reactions. Redditor 3. Okay. Take a step back, try and remove yourself from this nightmare, and look objectively at what you wrote. Grave marital offense. List your words. The affair. 1. It soon became clear her friend was a straight man, a few years older than her and rather shy, and the affair was almost entirely her initiative. Most of the emails and chats consisted of soppy time talk, fantasies and declarations of undying love which I couldn't be bothered to read. 2. My wife told him about the children they would have had if she'd met him instead of me. and how they could one day live together. She told him we had separated, but lived close to each other to share the care of our son. She had married me because I was a good person and I loved her, but not for love. In fact, she had only loved 2 people in her life before him, and I was not one of them. 3. A few months before their vacation, she told him she was planning to go the doctor to see about taking the pill so they wouldn't have to use condoms. I don't know if she actually did. In another email he told her he would bring some, but I find it incredibly disturbing that she could even suggest it, piling on the lies and rug sweeping her infidelity. 1. She told me she was sorry. She'd lied to avoid hurting me. It was at a difficult period of her life which was over now, and I was such a good husband for staying beside her in spite of her craziness. She loved me, and we should forget about it and move on. Your response. 1. I'm in 2 minds about whether to bring this up with her again. It was 5 years ago, and I'm almost certain she's been loyal since. I still love her. She often tells me she loves me, and we have time a few times a month or more. I don't want to start a confrontation that might wreck a marriage with a child in the middle. Plus I'll have to tell her that I snooped on her emails, which I'm quite prepared to do, but I don't want her to feel it's anything other than a one-off. Dude, she orchestrated an affair with a 2-year-old at home, ramped up the betrayal by allowing the guy unprotected time, and felt zero remorse for her infidelity. She would have been happy to have never told you anything had you not found out, which is the twist of the knife she sank into your marriage. When finally confronted, she dismissed and minimized her relationship with her affair partner when she could have come clean and thrown the dice that you would have possibly forgiven her, which it sounds like you would have, since it took you so long to even admit that you knew Pat's gender was male. Nobody can tell you what to do here, but if it's your choice to remain with a malicious, lying cheater who clearly could not care less about you or your family, something evidenced by the affair never prompting enough guilt to come clean, you are choosing to live with blinders on, and someday she's going to do it again. I honestly wish you the best of luck because you, my man, are going to need it. Redditor 4. Plus I'll have to tell her that I snooped on her emails, which I'm quite prepared to do, but I don't want her to feel it's anything other than a one-off. I honestly find it unbelievable the common trend that people posting here are worried about confessing to their cheating spouse that they snooped. I mean, seriously? She went off for a week of having unprotected time with some internet stranger, and you're concerned about telling her you snooped. You snooping is a mere footnote in this debacle. Redditor 5. It's your life, man, but I couldn't let sleeping dogs lie on this one. She said she didn't love you. She let him be her back, but not you. There are so many things here that just angry up my blood. I couldn't just swallow all that down, and I don't think you should either. Redditor 6. Confront her. She probably doesn't mean the love thing, but the unprotected time this is ducked up. Some women get off in that, being dirtier with a stranger than with a husband. You need to talk to her and make her get her head straight. She cheated. You have proof. I hope you saved it, because if divorce comes up, then that can really save you a lot in the long run. Redditor 8. Dude, find some self-respect and dump your cheating rotten wife. She went to great lengths to lie and hide her affair directly in front of you while she's traveling to get plowed by this guy raw. She simply desired him more than she desired you timely. That is a fact. But one ML I read, the last one, said something that I find it hard to forgive her for. A few months before their vacation, she told him she was planning to go the doctor to see about taking the pill so they wouldn't have to use condoms. I don't know if she actually did. In another email he told her he would bring some, but I find it incredibly disturbing that she could even suggest it. Ever since we met, she's insisted we use condoms as contraception. I should add she was on the pill for a couple of years before we met, and I assume it didn't work out, and she once told me that over 10 years, her ex-boyfriends had never used condoms, but that's her past, not my business. You have zero self-respect. A total doormat. She gave you duty time and never desired you. Do you make a lot more money than she ever did? But I still have nagging doubts. Why did she offer to have unprotected time with a man she'd never met, yet to this day insists her husband of 14 years used protection? Shouldn't it be the other way round? Why did she tell him she didn't love me? Was that just to keep him interested? Why do you think, dude? I don't want to start a confrontation that might wreck a marriage with a child in the middle. Plus I'll have to tell her that I snooped on her emails, which I'm quite prepared to do. But I don't want her to feel it's anything other than a one-off. Pathetic. This is actually sad. Pretty sure it's not your fault. I hope you saved copies of those emails. They would be very useful in a divorce if you weren't so clueless to preserve the evidence and had the guts to divorce. She clearly already has your balls. Redditor 9. Why did she offer to have unprotected time with a man she'd never met, yet to this day insists a husband of 14 years use protection? As much as I hate to say this is one straight for the red pillars. They would say you're a provider she doesn't love. Redditor 10. Leave her. You need to go to a lawyer and find out where you stand. If she had just been talking to this guy online and saying that crap, then it could easily have just been fantasy nonsense. It really does read like that. Meeting him completely changed that. There was at least some truth to what she was saying in their email exchanges. Now, even if you could forgive her that very considered and planned affair, I don't understand how anyone could look past the scene dom thing. Her past boyfriends, some random dude from the internet, and who else? That's not going through a bad phase. That's been the entirety of your relationship and something she doesn't care about with other guys. You've let this acid eat at you for years now. It won't stop. There is no satisfactory answers she could possibly give that will stop it eating away at you.